Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo and we're here at Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, and I'm delighted to be joined with Emily with your fantastic movie Soul Food. Let's take a look at the clip.
ข้าวกินวันนี้นะเนี่ยเอาแล้วเดี๋ยวนี้วางอีกแล้วจะรอดไหมเนี่ยใส่กินสาวทำเองตะเกียบเดี๋ยวเอาไปได้เฮ้ยมาแล้วค่ะมาโอ๊ยฟ้าอย่าเพิ่งมาเดี๋ยวค่อย
Emily, I'm so happy that you're part of the New Filmmakers Los Angeles family, and thank you so much for bringing soul food to us at the festival. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
What a film, like, oh my goodness, I've got so many questions, but for those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
Soul Food is a magical realist piece that's kind of a love letter for me to my mom. And it follows this woman who is at the funeral of her mother, and she, you know, in her grief kind of walks out of the funeral and stumbles upon a noodle shop in a very street food style manner that's next to the temple, and then she sees the soul of her mother having a last bowl of noodle before she goes on to the next life, and they kind of get this final chance to reconcile like the hurt and the pain in their relationship before you know, time runs out. And it kind of is, it's a complicated piece about what closure means when you're trying to say goodbye to someone who you really love deeply but who's hurt you deeply as well.
Yeah, there's so many, there is so many layers and context that makes this film magical. It did feel like a magical experience with so much going on emotionally for these characters. Really, really wonderful experience to watch, especially on the big screen. Where did this wonderful story articulate into becoming a film for you?
Yeah, like I mentioned last night, I wrote a short story that wasn't a script. It was like a short prose piece that I was going to submit to magazines, and just for shits and gigs I was doing that in the pandemic. And it was me exploring my earliest childhood memory of being 2 years old at my grandma's funeral. And the memory was it was quite funny. It was my nanny taking me up to the casket, and my nanny asking me to say hi to my grandma. And as a 2-year-old who, like, at that time I didn't even speak yet, in my head I thought, like, why would I do that? She's dead. That was like one of my first conscious thoughts. And I just thought it was really interesting because, like, I understood life and death at like such a young age. And so I wrote this short story that's really spirited away in tone, where it's about this little girl who is at her grandma's funeral, and she stumbles out and finds a noodle shop, and then sees the soul of her grandma, not quite grasping that her grandma's dead yet, and then kind of learning about life and death in that story. And I sent that story to my producer, who was like, you need to make this into a short film. And the piece was like fun and innocent, right? And we all jumped in because it was a pandemic, we had nothing else to do. And as I was writing the script, I realized that, like, I'm not that little girl anymore, you know, like I wasn't learning about life and death. Like, I was very acquainted with the concept, and I think I was itching to explore other more difficult subjects relating to death, which is like closure and how do you move on, and like how does one, like, what does it mean to have a second chance? Right? So I ended up aging the little girl up and then the grandma down to a mom, and kind of use this as like a hypothetical of like, okay, if I lost my mom right now, have I said everything I wanted to say to her? And the answer is no, right? And even if you know you have limited time with them, you never get that. No one really gets to sit down with someone who's dying and it goes, hey, like, you did this to me and I want you to apologize. Like, that conversation doesn't organically happen.
Absolutely.
So that kind of became the film.
I mean, it's such an amazing artistic vision you have, but also your amazing imagination in creating this space that you did for us as well, this design, this set. But I can't believe it's like one of your first thoughts as a 2-year-old, like, and you've
Yeah,
articulated. I mean, that's quite amazing when you think about it.
I was like,
you
yeah,
know?
she's dead. I don't know why I'm saying hi to her. And I thought about that. It left such a profound mark on me. 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
I'm sure.
My mom always asked me, she's like, what's like the earliest memory you have? Like, do you remember? And I was like, I have like bits and pieces of me at like our first home and like me with my grandma. So like, I definitely had earlier memories because I remember my grandma before she passed away. But the most like articulate thought I had as a child was that moment, which was so interesting. And that moment made it into the movie. It was like the first scene where the little girl goes up to the casket to say goodbye to her auntie and like doesn't want to do it. And that's kind of inspired by that memory.
It's amazing. And again, it's like, you know, looking into the context of the story, you know, we never have enough conversations, and so it was, but the intimacy in which you created this, you know, experience for us, like, was I felt like I was there eating food with you and just like listening to these conversations. And how did you, because obviously it's, you know, had a very magical, most immersive experience. How did you go about creating the design of how you wanted to feel and look?
It was very research intensive. Even though I went to my grandma's funeral, I was so young, and like I was born and raised in Thailand, and my family's Thai Chinese. Like a lot of Thais are kind of like descendants of like Chinese, like this sub-ethnic group of Chinese people who like moved down south, and our funeral tradition is quite unique. And my grandma was the last person in my family who received that funeral tradition because she believed in an afterlife, whereas the rest of my family who are Buddhist, we reincarnate, we cremate, we reincarnate. So I had to do a lot of research into that cultural specificity, and I needed to strike that balance between my two cultures and heritage, right? And I sourced a lot of props from Thailand. I got it flown out. So just I wanted
That's
I wanted
amazing.
it to, so my actress who's in it, she had an assistant in Thailand who was going to be on set with her. So I asked him, I was like, hey, if I order these things, like, can you bring it from Thailand to LA? Because we had to shoot LA for Thailand. And
I mean, that's amazing. By the way, well done. I thought I was in Thailand. You did a great job. Yes,
it was a feat, but it took a lot of research, and also just like I remember the essence of the funeral. And the thing that struck me the most as a child at that funeral when I was 2 was the ritual of the coins. And I remember that really starkly. So when someone dies, and in this funeral tradition, they line up all the descendants, like kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, so we all line up. And, you know, the monks chant, and what you do is you go up this bridge, there's a basin of water on the floor, and you drop coins into that basin. And the coins are supposed to lead the loved one to the next life with wealth. That's like what the tradition is meant to serve as. And I wondered, you know, like the coin is like a motif in our film, where it's just like, okay, the coin is supposed to lead the mom to the other side, but it ended up showing itself to the daughter as well. So that's what led her to see her mother. And so it took me just really sitting with what the traditions are in reality, and how do I extend the reality just slightly to the point where it's not quite fantasy, it's like in that sweet spot of magical realism, and make it so that we experience something that won't happen in our lifetime, but it feel like it could.
No, absolutely. I mean, no, most definitely. And that's just so lovely, the transfer of the coin, such a wonderful way of celebrating someone and passing on and passing through. Now, the title obviously is Soul Food, and, you know, anyone that has ever been to Thailand or is from Thailand or knows Thailand or experiences Thai food, food is made with love, you know. It is like it's a love offering, and what I loved about Soul Food is that food was such a central part of this relationship. Tell us how you kind of wanted to delve into making food such an important part to this film.
I think just some of the most profound conversations I've had in my life, not just with my mother, was over a meal. And I think a lot of it, we live such a busy life, and like the most quiet moments I can think of for me are ones where I'm sitting down with someone, we're just talking over food. And I wanted that to be, and like you said, you know, like food is like an act of love
Yeah.
in a way,
Yeah.
especially in like Eastern
Yeah.
cultures.
Absolutely.
Like your parent, there's like always a joke of like your parents not saying I love you or like I'm proud of you, but like they'll ask you if you're hungry. Like that's
Yes.
kind of like the, you know, a very common experience of someone who like is raised in like an Eastern culture.
Yeah.
And so it's very much I have a similar relationship with my mother where it's just like she'll always make sure that I'm fed. And so I kind of thought about that as being, you know, like there are 5 love languages, right? Like acts of service, like words of affirmation. And I thought like food was like a 6th category in a way,
100%,
where it's
yes.
just like making sure someone is fed and communicating their love through food.
Yeah.
I always had this memory of me studying in high school and my mom bringing me a plate of fruit, like nicely cut up and nicely arranged. That's just like her way of saying like I love you and like, you know, like make sure that you have sustenance to keep going.
Yeah.
So I food is very big on my mind, and the story is about miscommunication ultimately. Because the main thing that one of the main things I thought of in relation to me and my mother is that the source of our conflict kind of stems from our miscommunication. And it wasn't until actually making this short film that I realized that we had different love languages. Like my mom's like an acts of service girl and I'm a words of affirmation girl, and I think we were trying to get each other to communicate love in the way that we receive it, but didn't realize that we were so different. And then we just bicker because it's like you're not giving me what I need and I'm not giving her what she needs, and I think she's nagging me to do things for her when that's how she receives love, and that was the source of our conflict. And so miscommunication was like a big theme in this that I wanted to communicate, but the only question that you can't get wrong in my relationship with my mom is if you're hungry or not. Like it's the food.
love
like
it.
that's something that you'll never miss. It's if you're hungry or not, and then the fix is okay, I'll feed you. Like that's why food became such an integral part in the movie.
I mean, really, it's so incredible to watch. No matter what emotions are going on between the characters, food was the way of emerging this conversation, good, bad, the ugly, everything together.
Yeah.
And it really came across so great. And then to give us this kind of magical setting was I mean, the score as well is just so pure, so beautiful. Like, my goodness me, you had really good people on that one as well.
Yeah, I love my composer, and both my composer and my main sound designer are based in Thailand. So we had to do that remotely, but it worked out great because they had access to like Thai instruments and sounds that you couldn't capture here. So
Stunning, yeah.
there was something that when we were in the editing room, there's a sound in the last scene where our main protagonist Fa goes to her mother's grave with her son, and there's this bird in the background that I've never heard anywhere else but in Thailand, but it's so common in Thailand. And I just like, I paused it and I looked at my sound designer. I was like, where did you get that? And he told me that my sound designer, who's based in Thailand, she used this microphone where you put it in your ears. You just walk around and it gets ambience in like a very 360 way. And she caught that bird and she put it in, and I was like, this is how you did LA for Thailand. It really felt like Thailand because it wasn't just like the look, it was the sound, the feeling. So I props to my team. They did a really good job. And my composer, I basically, one of the comps for my film was Lady Bird, because of the mother-daughter relationship. And there was a specific score in there that I was like, this is like the tone that I think I want to match, but I want you to do it with Thai instruments. And so I sent that song to him. He came back to me with just the perfect rendition of it, and I was like, that's it. And he mimicked the essence of what the score was, but with the cultural specificity of like using Thai instruments. So that's I mean, that's what I mean. The depth you put into this as well of yourself and your team was amazing, and it really resonated, and you really felt it. And again, a really beautiful film to see on the big screen that you've done as well. So, well done, honestly. What is next for you? I'm working on a feature. I think I'll hopefully be shooting it in Thailand. I kind of want my projects to kind of take me home.
I love that.
I love working here, but it's like I actually never thought I would make this short film, because like as an immigrant, you kind of think of success as, you know, writing and directing for Hollywood, right? And that doesn't mean putting your culture heritage and your home like identity up front. So I never thought I would make this kind of short film, but after I made the short film and seeing like everyone have such a visceral reaction to like this difficult relationship that they can kind of relate to with their own parents, I was like, oh, like cultural specificity is universal in some way. You know, like we're at a time now where everyone watches foreign movies and TV shows.
Thank
and
goodness,
it doesn't, you know, it's not subtitles aren't a big thing anymore, that people are like, I don't want to read subtitles. So now that I've made this short, I was like, okay, maybe I can keep going at it and do it on a bigger scale. So
absolutely, I'm so excited for you. I mean, whether you're making them here or in Thailand or bringing films here or over the world, that's amazing. And you know, I think it's a very important fact to me actually. With New Filmmakers, over 50% of our films are subtitled, and we'd like to showcase storytellers obviously around the world from, you know, many different experiences. But I love how your film, you know, was so special, did have such a wonderful essence to Thailand in so many ways, and you really took the detail into that. But you know, just also the universal fact you took this film, and the moralities are, you know, reminding us of just how precious our relationships are with people that we love, and you really articulated that so well, honestly. So I'm looking forward to what you bring us next. But just to finally, in your career thus far, Emily, like for filmmakers out there, people that kind of want to follow in their footsteps, follow their authentic voice and story, do you have any advice that you kind of go by, that you kind of move along for any people out there?
In the process of making this film, I think what was really important to me was you need to know what you're saying. And I think a lot of my professors in film school and like everyone I've worked for were like, you gotta know what you're saying. And I didn't understand what they meant then. I was kind of like, whatever, like I want to make fun things and blah, blah, blah. I think even when you are making blockbusters and like studio films, you still need to know what you're saying. Yeah. Right? There needs to be, I think some of the most successful films are ones that are incredibly personal, even if the scale is very big. True. So my advice for anyone who, you know, is a writer, director, or creator of some sort, just like, you know who you are, know what you're trying to say, because the format can change, the genre can change, like the characters can change, but at the end of the day, if you know that this story is about X, Y, Z, it's about closure, you're trying to communicate this. I think you'll never, you can't go wrong.
Oh, so true, so true. Well, listen, thank you for bringing soul food to us. Thank you for bringing it to us, Emily, and we're very excited for your next project. Can't wait to see that unfold in Thailand, hopefully, as well. So thank you very much. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Emily, everybody.